Hello and welcome to TV on TV. Today is Thursday, January 13th. My name is State Representative Tommy Vitolo, and you're watching TV on TV only on Brookline Interactive Group. We have a great guest today. We have Sharon Stout. She's a lot of things. She is the co-chair of Emerge. She's the chair of the Newton City Democrats, and a variety of other things. We'll get into it. Definitely stay tuned. She's phenomenal. I don't always remember, but I'm going to go ahead and hold it up there. This is me, 617-872-8921. Please do give me a call if I can ever be helpful to you. As always, we're going to do the news and then cut over to an interview with Sharon Stout recorded just a day ago. On Tuesday, United States President Joe Biden made the case for legislation that would reverse recent restrictions on voting rights. 19 states have enacted 33 laws that restrict the franchise. Biden also called for an end to the filibuster if necessary in order to pass voting rights bills in the Congress. The United States Justice Department is creating a team tasked with combating domestic terrorism. This new strategy comes as threats of extremism drastically rise, and the Justice Department continues to address the events of January 6, 2021. This week, the United States Mint began shipping out quarters with portraits of historical women. The first quarters in the series will feature Maya Angelou, the first Black woman to appear on a U.S. quarter. Temperatures in Massachusetts plunged to single digits on Tuesday, warming to 30 degrees yesterday, and today, more cold weather is expected this weekend. This past Monday, the Massachusetts Senate engrossed H. 4083, moving Brookline's home rule petition to allow the Colonel Floyd apartments to be reconstructed in a net zero fashion, one step closer to becoming law. While COVID-19 cases continue to surge, local wastewater data shows that the virus is beginning to fall away. The city of Boston's vaccine passport program will begin this Saturday, January 15. Brookline has followed suit, requiring proof of at least one vaccination for those aged 12 and up to enter restaurants, gyms, and entertainment venues beginning on January 15. By May 1st, all visitors aged 5 and older will be required to present proof of full vaccination, which creates an interesting problem observed by town meeting member Marissa Vogt. What happens when your 4-year-old turns 5, the day your 4-year-old turns 5, sometime after May 1st, that 5-year-old certainly isn't fully vaccinated. He or she will require at least a month for that. And does that mean that that 5-year-old, just turned 5-year-old is prohibited? I think it's an edge case, but I think it's an important one, and it demonstrates that those who were rushing ahead with this maybe are a little bit late, but also didn't get the details quite right. Nevertheless, I think it's good general policy, and I only wish that they had done it sooner, so that it was in place when the vaccine was implemented and cases were at their highest. This past Saturday, the new Brookline Hills Mbta station opened with raised platforms for accessible boarding, pedestrian track crossings, and access pathways, new canopies, seating, lighting, wayfinding, a pickoff and drop-off location for the ride, access from Brington Road, really a phenomenal outcome, including the removal of about 10 parking spaces right out front that were used by commuters from out of town, replacing it with a plaza that will be a real pleasure for riders, for park users, and for high school students, faculty, and staff. And so without further ado, we do want to get over to Sharon Stout, co-chair of Emerge, and so much more. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to see Sharon Stout only on Brookline Interactive Group. See you on the flip side.
That's one small step for man, one giant.
And as I mentioned earlier, today we have an unbelievable guest. We have Sharon Stout from the hinterlands of Massachusetts, known as Newton, a very far rural agricultural community west of Brookline. The thing about Sharon is like, she does so many different things. It's hard for me to even remember them all. So I wrote them down. I'm going to cheat and look. So for me, she's, I sort of think about first and foremost as the co-chair of Emerge, but she's also the chair of the Newton Democrats. She's also a trustee of the Newton, they call it the Newton Free Library. Is that right? And at the state level, she's the deputy treasurer for the Massachusetts Democratic Party. So Sharon, welcome to I say the big city of Brookline, right? It's the city of Newton, the town of Brookline, but we're a little more bustling, closer to Boston, but welcome on Zoom. We're glad you could join us today.
Thank you so much.
I want to kind of get started. I want to hear about Emerge. I really want to hear about Emerge. But I want to start with the other stuff first, so we can kind of do the business and then get to the things that are more interesting to at least some of the viewers. I'm sure you have some sense for what's going on with caucuses and convention. I'm talking about the Democratic State Convention. Before that, we have these city and town caucuses, right? And then we go to the convention, and the viewers have no idea what I'm talking about. So help us understand what the heck I'm talking about, because you know it better than I do.
Well, that's a great question. It's going to be hopefully a lot of information we'll trump in here. Before we do our fabulous convention, nominating convention that we do every 4 years, where the party basically picks our nominee for governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, auditor, we have this process, which the convention this year is June 4th in Worcester, DCU. We do this process called the caucus and delegation section. And normally we would be doing it in person. You'd have candidates coming. It's great. Most of the cities, I believe, we're doing them virtual. Newton's doing it virtually. Brookline is doing it virtually. I'll be helping you guys. It is a time frame between February 4th to March 12th. We'll use Brookline as an example. You guys will come together. You're actually all coming together March 5th, and you will be able to raise your hand and say, I'm Tommy Tola, and I want to run for delegate for the convention. And you will have all of the massive delegates coming to Brookline. That's a voting member of Brookline, and they will be voting on you to see if you're going to be a part of that convention. It's quite contentious. It's quite fabulous. I've done 28 of these. I love doing these. Brookline, you guys have the longest caucuses in the day because there's so many of you. Newton, we're a little bit easier. We have 8 wards. But because we're doing it virtually, I'm doing each ward a different day. But we're going to do all of Brookline on March 5th. But it's a wonderful process. It is open to all voting Democrats within each city. So within Brookline, you would come together and you would run to be a part of our convention. And then you would be able to vote on the nominees that will be on the ballot. And then who would be our, you're going to vote for who would be on the ballot and then who would be our nominee.
So the delegates chosen at each of the, in the case of cities, at each of the ward caucuses, in the case of towns in the town-wide caucus, they go to this convention in June. They're not choosing the nominee though, right? Because there's still a primary. So what do the caucus goers do as compared to the primary voters in September? How does that work?
So basically, to get on the ballot, you need to get 15% of the vote. So you could have all, say, we'll use a nice, the auditor's race. There's two contestants. They can both very well get that 15% on the threshold to get on the ballot. They'll get on the ballot, but one would be the nominee.
So it's 2 parts. If you're a candidate, you've got to get 15% to even be on the primary ballot. Yeah. And the person who gets the highest percentage is the person on the top line, or the person who gets 50% is the nominee?
It's more of, so 2 separate things. One, you get on the ballot, and then it's a vote to be who becomes our nominee. So one would be like our, for the lack of the better word, the special person that we're pushing.
Got it. And you proposed me as an example as running, but of course, since I'm the state rep, I automatically am a delegate, right? I don't have to get voted in by the caucus. I've been voted in by the electorate, right? I think that's right.
I want to say yes,
I think that's right.
in theory. There are a few people who you do not have to run. The Democratic mayors don't have to run. Our congressional offices don't have to run. And I believe over the past years, the state reps do not have to run. But again, everything can always change. So we have an executive meeting this week, so we'll find out if that changes or not.
So, something for me to keep an eye on. And you know, I'll talk about a couple of races, right? The auditor's race has two candidates, Senator Diane Zaglia and Chris Dempsey. And the odds are they'll both get 15%. And,
Yes.
you know, there might be a who's the preferred candidate question, but they're both going to be on the ballot. But in the case of like lieutenant governor, where I think at this point there's 4 candidates and more seem likely to get in, it gets to the point where not everybody may get to the 15%. And for some, it's survive, or, you know, your campaign's over early. So this has a material impact.
Yes, so every 4 years, this is where the rubber hits the road, and that convention becomes really exciting and fun. And again, it's like when you have governor and lieutenant governor, there are folks who may not make the ballot. And then it becomes the scuttlebutt in the back of if for whatever reason candidate C doesn't make the ballot, then who are the people who are going there to vote for them, who gets their votes. So it becomes really, really exciting in that to get to those top, technically 3 or 4 spots.
And so when the dust settles, then Secretary Galvin will know from the Democratic side which candidates are on the ballot for statewide offices for the September primary, and in fact, the order in which they will appear on the ballot.
Yes, I believe he controls the order, not necessarily the state party or the convention. That order and the ballot printing, that falls under his office.
Got it. And so this is all insider baseball, right? But the parties figure out who their nominees are going to be, right? And of course, in Massachusetts, it's considered a semi-open primary. And what that means is if you are a Democrat, you can vote in the Democratic primary or none of them. If you're a Republican, vote in the Republican primary or none of them. If you're a member of the Green Party, you can vote in the Green Party or none of them. But if you are unenrolled, which we tend to call independent, but technically it's called unenrolled, you can vote in any single primary you want. You can't vote in more than one, but you can choose. And so, in fact, there are a lot of Massachusetts voters who are unenrolled, and sometimes they pull a Republican primary ballot, sometimes they pull a Democratic primary ballot. And the only reason maybe to not be unenrolled is if you're unenrolled, you can't go to the Democratic or the Republican caucus. You can't go to their convention because you're not on their team, right? So it's insider baseball, but it definitely has an impact. And, you know, it's interesting stuff coming up. But really, like, I want to talk about Emerge. And I love Emerge. I'm a big fan, but I know that some of the viewers have no idea what I'm talking about. So I want to ask you to kind of like take 3 steps back. And what is Emerge? Give us a little history. What are you guys up to?
Oh, well, thank you. I love Emerge. Emerge is an organization that was created about 15 years ago, probably 16 years ago now that we're in 2022, by a group of strong, active, diverse women. Barbara Lee spearheaded it. Ayanna Presley, Congresswoman Ayanna Presley, Cheryl Crawford, Beth Bolden, a bunch of women got together and wanted to create an organization to train Democratic women to run for office. And as we both know, as most folks know, that's one of Barbara Lee's babies, of making sure there's women running for office of all levels. So they created this training program, Emerge Massachusetts, which is actually a part of Emerge America. And it is 15 years old. We have trained over 500 women with a 81% success rate of women who run for office, they succeed. We have women all the way from school committee to planning boards to Congress. I will say just throwing off 5 or 6 fabulous names that we have for our alumni is a lot of firsts. We have, as I said, our founding member, Congressman Ayanna Presley. We had the first Black female DA, Rachel Rollins, who's now going to be our US Attorney. We had the first mayor, Black female, Dr. Yvonne Spicer. We had Rep. Tram Nguyen, who is a first. You actually have Rep. Claire Cronin, who's going to be hopefully an ambassador of Ireland. You have Liz Miranda, you have Governor Council Eileen Duff. I will say last term, all of the Boston City Council, except for one, were emerged women. And now you have Michelle Wu being the mayor and a first. You have Lydia Edwards being a first and the senator. We have such an amazing bench and success rate. And I'm very, very proud of being a part of this group for the last 15 years. And again, our goal every year is to keep training fabulous, intelligent women to keep going up the ladder. And we have quite a few women right now in races that are going on. And last year, last cycle, we actually had the most women in running for office than all of Emerge across America.
Amazing. And I imagine at this point, some of your Emerge Massachusetts alumni have been in office a while. Maybe they've even climbed from one office to another. I expect that there's still, many of them are still part of this Emerge mentoring community and helping others out. Is that right?
That is right. We do build ourselves as this beautiful sisterhood, and we have an alumni committee, and we do events every year that we're grateful that you actually attend also. And a lot of the alums, they come back and they train. They're either trainers or they come and speak to the women. We have mentor programs. We have quite a few, as I said, running now. As much as I try to stay neutral in all races because of all my hats. So a part of me is like, I don't want to name names because then it looks like I'm shouting one out over the other in their contested races. But I would encourage people to look at the races that are going on across the state right now.
Now, even when we think about the politics that include people who are elected, it's not just the candidate, right? And a campaign involves a candidate, but also some other folks who are critical, depending on the size of the race, for that candidate to succeed. And so is Emerge only focused on candidates, or is Emerge a little broader than that?
That is a fabulous question. So Emerge, while we started out making sure we trained the right women for office, we actually have a campaign managers training class. So we have the women that are out there making the next queens and elected officials. We actually have a part of the class where we just started a cohort that I come in and I actually tell them like they could go through this process, a 6-month process. We have a boot camp process also. And you do not need to run for office to have influence and change and the power to make change within your communities. You do not need to be an elected official, as much as we love all of you. You can be a powerhouse in advocacy. You could be a powerhouse behind the candidates. You can be a powerhouse without actually having to hold that title. And our toolbox, our training helps them in that toolbox to do such. I've been doing this for 30 years in politics, and I don't want to run for office.
Now, some people are even powerhouses in fundraising, I've heard, but that's for maybe another day. So is Emerge just going to keep on keeping on? Any plans for new ways of doing things, or expanding the way you go about things? Or at this point, are you in just kind of a steady state?
We're always trying to improve. We're always looking for different techniques. We're always looking for different classes. We have our core, but with the world changing, we have to change along with that. We've all had to change with COVID. So for the first time in all these years, we spent the last 2 years on Zoom, which was it's a tough thing to teach 30 women. Our classes are literally, we sign on at 8:30 in the morning and they're not getting off Zoom until 4:30, 5 o'clock. So that is a long time to learn how to pivot to have you focused on Zoom. We started this year, as I said, we just started last weekend, our first set of classes. We thought we were going to be in person. We had to pivot right back to Zoom. But we're keeping on, and we're looking for the next level to go. And I think a couple of years ago, we actually did 2 classes at the same time. So hopefully once we get back in person, we can do that at the same time, because we can only do 30 women at the same time in a class. And we usually have 3 women for every slot every year.
So there are two, I think I heard you right. There are 2 qualifications to be in the program. You have to be a Democrat and you have to identify as a woman. But if someone meets those 2 criteria, how would she apply or learn more? Or I bet you have a website, right? Tell us about that.
We do have a website, and I believe it's Emerge America, believe it or not, and it goes strictly to Emerge Massachusetts. You can always look us up. That's easy to do. Once a woman is self-identified woman is willing to go through this program, they would apply, they would sit through an interview packet, an application packet, then they sit through an interview process with about 3 of us interviewing them. Then they would go through another interview. Then after those interviews and the 3 of us get together, then it's actually divided into 2 other processes where we have to keep narrowing down to where we feel is the best candidate for the classes. And we try to be as diverse as possible with location, economics, race, religion. We really make an effort to make sure that it is a very diverse, broad spectrum class.
And I'll bet age as well. I've noticed in the state legislature that we have newly elected members of the House, women who are in a really broad age bracket. And that's actually really exciting because they all come in with tremendous energy, but they come in with very different stages in their life and very different thoughts about ways to achieve similar objectives with different thoughts because they're coming from different places. And that's that diversity. So Emerge is going to keep doing what it does, and that is helping women have the tools to run for office and be successful and win, and then govern well, right? Which is the part that also matters. It's not enough just to win.
You have to be able to stay there. So yes.
Certainly the ones you mentioned who I've worked with, Representative Wynn, Leader Cronin, phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I'm very grateful for your work and for the work of Emerge, because it's helping create more partners in doing great work in public service. And folks have a website, they know where to go. And I bet if they really had a burning question, they could probably find you, Sharon Stout of Newton, with all of these titles, right? Chair of the Newton City Democratic Committee and library trustee and co-chair of Emerge and deputy treasurer of the Democratic Party. We're really grateful that you took some time with us today here on Brookline Interactive Group. And I know I speak for my viewers when I say thank you very much. We're so grateful that you had some time to talk with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate any time that we can spread the word of Emerge.
And well, folks, you've been watching Brookline Interactive Group. That's another week of TV on TV. And I hope that we will see you next Thursday. And I also hope this may be the first episode where we have the outro, where we give you like the scrolling credits of who helped build the show. We've been doing the show for almost 2 years. We haven't done that yet, but I think we'll have it done in time for this show. If not, maybe next week. In any case, we'll see you next week here on Brookline Interactive Group. Thanks for watching.